Hey everyone, this is Mike with Class 1 Model Works, and we want to do a tutorial today on how to install onto your depressed center flat car one of our brand new industrial mix tanks load kits. This thing is really cool and I think you're going to enjoy this. This is how we're going to make it happen. We have our dual tank system. That'll sit right about here in the middle of the car. It's got a couple of beams on here for spreading, and those will sit on the car about this location, a crate of parts. They'll go on the car about this location. And we've got a couple of filter discs over here. And there's a couple different ways you can do this. It depends on what you would like to do. These can either fit down into the tank if you want to run them that way, set them down inside the tank, or you can mount them as a separate load piece out on the outer deck. I kind of like the thought of having them on the outside deck as an extra load piece, just for a little extra interest in the load. So first we're going to start with our beam and our crate. You can see here that I have pre-drilled a number of holes. So these will be the mounting holes that we'll use our mounting wire to go through. So I've pre-drilled the locations for that so that we can make this a little bit faster for you. So literally I just used pin vise with a number 76 drill bit to make the holes going down through the deck, and that's where we'll feed our wires in. So let's get started. On the beams, a little something I did here. When you get these, you'll notice that they have a molded on stripe on them that kind of resembles the beam lashing. So they usually take and strap these things together so that they don't fall over and they stay in one piece, gives them a little more stability. What I like to use is a little bit of thin pinstripe tape, some black pinstripe tape that you can get at the automotive store, and they don't have the real super thin stuff. You can always use what they have and cut yourself a nice little thin piece. You want it to be about 2 scale inches or so, 1 or 2 scale inches, and then literally it's got an adhesive backing on it, and you can literally just wrap that around the beam. So what we're going to do is we're going to locate where we want our beam to be, and it's kind of between the 2 holes here, and we want to set that almost right in the middle of that. And once we've got that fit and we think we know where we want it to go, take a little bit of ACC. You don't need a lot, just a little bit. We'll take that and we will affix that to the deck between the holes. Try and center up between the holes that you've pre-drilled. Nice and square to the edge of the car. And there we go. All right, again, we're going to do the same thing with the crate. Your CA glue, your super glue, if you will. And we'll get that centered up. There's 2 holes here and here. And there we go. We'll get that on and we'll get that fastened down. All right, so now what we want to do is fasten these down and tie them down with our wire. This is the wire that comes in the kit. You've got about 8 or 10 strands of this. It's a nice gray wire on here. And this is a 4.4 millimeter wire. So that should fit right into the holes that we've already pre-drilled. Okay, so what I want to do here now is let's cut that to length. Grab a little pair of nippers from back here. We'll cut a piece of that. Take our needle nose pliers. And we'll make a right angle bend here. You can do it. There it goes. And our next hole is over here. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this a little bit shorter because we're going down into the middle of the deck here. Trying to get to trimming off the excess is going to be a little tight if we do it. We don't do it till later. Okay, so We've got our tie downs onto our beams here. We had to fight a little bit with getting the wire through the hole. The wire sometimes doesn't want to go. And if you're having that problem, you can always drill your holes a little bit bigger. I went with the bit that I used was about a 0.5 millimeter hole, and this is a 0.4 millimeter wire. And sometimes, especially if your eyes aren't working all that well anymore, it can be a little tough to get that in there, but we've gotten them in. And they're done now. Now we're going to go work on our crate. And if we look at the picture from the prototype, they've got this strapped from the side. They've got something screwed onto the crate here and then strapped down this way. Now we can basically simulate that, or we can just wrap across the top of the crate and into the other side. And I think that's what we're going to do for our installation today. Okay, it's in the hole. And I'm going to put just a little dab of CA in there to hold that so it doesn't come back out on me. And with a little accelerator. Holding it tight, we're going to form that across the box to the other side. Trim this to the length that you need to get to your hole. And then using your pliers, feed that through the hole. And then we're going to put a little dab of super glue on the bottom side here. Hit it with some accelerator. And then we're going to trim off the excess. So then that'll look like it's got a nice little bolt done up on the bottom side of the deck here. So now we have our crate in place. Again, make sure you get this so it looks like it's a taut wire strap on here. We've got the first part of our install all done. Okay, our next step is going to be getting the tanks placed onto the deck here. So what we want to do is you can use your fingers to feel that you're equidistant on the sides and check against your holes, so that'll get you equidistant in the center. So these should just barely cover up that last center hole on either side. So once I've got my placement and I know where I want it, we're going to go back to the CA and we'll get a nice little generous amount on the middle of the tank here because we don't want this visible out at the ends. And again, we're working with the long setting glue here so that we can do some positioning work. And so based on the same feel you had before, line it up so you're just covering those two holes and you feel like you're good equidistant with your fingers on the sides. Looks like I'm a little heavy to this side over here. And I think that all looks good. So then we're going to throw a little accelerator down in there. And we're going to get those babies set on the deck. So there they are. So now what we want to do is strap these down. So as you can see from the photo that they actually strap these tanks down. They're kind of curving around the tank and to a center strap. Again, you can do this however you want. I'm going to work on just using the holes that we have on the outside of the car, and I'm going to strap down to those so that we secure those tanks. So again, using our wire, what we want to do is, you can see they've got these kind of a loop on here with a buckle. So what we're going to do is simulate that, and we're going to simulate that by making a little bend over in our wire, and then we'll put that through on these. You can see there's a right about in here is a little pin that goes in there, and that's kind of where we want to feed, is through above. So we'll go above that pin and get the wire through there. There we go. And we'll feed it out. So we fed that through, and we'll pull it so that the bottom side of our loop here goes on the bottom side of that little pin. There we go. And then we want to pull those together. And then once we've got those kind of together, we'll hold them down here at the base. Kind of mold them so that they're side by side. We'll put a little bit of super glue on there and string that out and make a kind of a nice little raised section out of that. There it goes. Now I get this all straightened up. I'm going to turn this around so I can see what I'm doing here. Feed this through the bottom and we'll pull this taut. That'll help straighten that wire. And take any little kinks out of it. Hold that securely in place. Kind of get it on the back side of the pipe here if you can. All right. So we've got that done, and what we're going to do is basically repeat this whole process for all 4 sides of the tank, and we'll get that done and we'll be right back. Okay, so we finished mounting our tank and getting it all strapped down on all 4 sides here. And that's come out really nice, looks really good. Now it's time for the last part of our installation, and that's the filter discs. Again, like we said, you can either place those inside here. There's a nice little rim inside the tank that these can set down on, or you can place them out here on the end of the other end of the deck for a different look. I'd like to place mine out here on the end of the deck. Well, again, this is a big chunk of steel, so they're not just going to lay this on the deck. They want to basically do a little bit to protect it so that it's not rubbing back and forth on the deck of the car. So in that case, what they're going to do is basically make a set of standoffs, and in this case just some 4x4 lumber, and we're using a little bit of HO scale 4x4 here that we've cut to length on this. And so we're going to basically glue these to each of the discs and then mount them to the car. And then again, I've got 4 pre-drilled holes out here that we're going to strap this down. And we try and get this one in the center of the disc. And get that adhered. Make sure you're kind of equal length, sticking out the ends. And do that with all 3 pieces. These other 2 are cut a little bit shorter because we're a little bit shorter on the disc. Just about equidistant from the center one, and I mean, you don't have to be exact here. So this is what we'd like to do with each of the discs. We've got our wood, and then the next disc will sit on top of this, so we got to put wood on top of that. This is to go on the deck here. And then the next one will be for going on top of that. So we do the same process all over again. And if you don't want to get CA on your fingers, you can always use your tweezers to do this. That's reasonable. I still like using my fingers sometimes because that gives me a nice feel for where I'm at. Okay, so now I've got both of my discs done. I've got the wood applied. So what I want to do is put this one disc on top of the other, and you're going to want your wood bracing to go 90 degrees to each other, because that's what gives it strength in the stack. So we'll put a little CA on here to mount this on top of the other one. And we've got a nice square here so that on our pad, so we can use that to square up in both directions. Make sure you're even top to bottom with your 2 discs. And basically I've got my sandwich ready to go. Looks kind of cool. And we'll get that mounted to the deck here. And again, we're going to use our tie-down wires. And on these, what we can do with these discs is literally we can mount through one of the holes and then bring that over to our hole here. So basically what I'm going to do is find a 45 degree and just feed it across the bottom here. Put a little dab of glue on there, hold it in place. That way you can pull your wire taut and you're not going to pull it out from your discs here. So now I can place that Give it a little extra length so that we got enough to pull things tight. And then we're going to repeat this process for all 4 corners. Okay, so we've got our little sandwich done. We've got all of our tie down wires are installed on here. Now basically it's just a matter of getting these fed through their holes and getting them tied down, and we will be finished up and ready to go with a beautiful load on a beautiful car. All right, so we're all done with getting our little sandwich made here with the cribbing for the discs. Now it's just a matter of getting it all tied down to the car. So we take basically our tie down wire here, and we're going to feed that through one of our pre-drilled holes. Be very careful while you're doing this that you don't break off your brake wheel. We'll get that fed through, get that fed in, pull that tight. And then we'll repeat the process on the other 4 corners and we'll be all done. And we're feeding our last wire in. Get this in, pull it tight. And trim it to length. And there you have it, folks. We have our finished car and our mounted load. Again, this is our industrial tank load that we've just come out with. And this is how you're going to attach it to your car. Hey, happy modeling, everybody out there. This is Mike at Class1ModelWorks.com. Go and find us on the web. Order your loads today.